Can we see it?
We can see perfect, thanks.
Perfect, from the beginning, all right. So, good, and there you are on the side. It's all perfect, love and life. And if somebody has questions and you wanna handle them, you just let me know and we'll run through it. But yeah, Abby and I started a destination-based thing, and it's called Doctors Michael and Abby Explain, and we do the energetic lifestyle. And our destination-based wellness came out of everything that we've learned from Skylar. We're chiropractors by profession, but we focus in on functional medicine, functional neurology, all the cold lasers, foot baths, detox and stuff. But Skylar was actually born in 2009, and that's kind of what we call our school of hard knocks. Gastroschisis is what she had, and it's an acute dehydration syndrome. And what that basically means is she would lose 20% of her body weight in hours. Gastroschisis is pretty horrific. This was the first picture we had of our baby girl. She was, everything you see in that tube, everything was inside out. It was stomach, liver, pancreas, spleen, small intestine, large intestine, bladder, right ovary, the whole bit. And they finally got stuff put back in a silo, and it's just intestines. Well, the intestines ended up rupturing, and you know, it was really touch and go. And this was a picture of her holding my pinky at that time. And I had actually made the promise to her that I'll move heaven and earth and do whatever it takes to make sure you get well. And kept my word. But it got worse from there. The following week, the bowel actually ruptured and she got a septic infection inside the bowel, inside the body. And it really went downhill fast. You can actually see Lexi there playing ball with her. She would actually stand there and rock the crib. It's kind of scary when your daughter wakes up and says, "Can we go to the hospital and see my sister?" But here's where dehydration came in. This was a good day. Actually, it was a good few hours where we had the hose out of her nose. She had had her first colostomy. They had reversed the colostomy and sent her home to see. She was home for about 30 hours. What happened was, this was one picture, and then this was 4 hours later after they revived her from dehydration. We almost lost her in the transport getting her to the hospital. They actually told me, don't wait for 911. When you call 911, get a police escort, not an ambulance, because they won't be able to tap her vein in the ambulance. So we did that several times, and she ended up having another colostomy, and then they did a resection where they took out part of her bowel. And you can see this thing here is called a Mickey button. Somebody goes, why is it a Mickey? It's what it is. It's a key, and it's got a balloon on the inside. And so we did force feeds that went right straight through to her stomach. When you show up at Scottish Rite, everybody's seen the TV shows where there's triage and the doctors are like running around and whoever's the worst. We actually had the doctors come out into the parking lot and take Skylar out of the car. The first time it happens, you're like, oh Lord, no, not now. 4 or 5 times, you become an expert in whatever it takes. And so we did water, filters, you know, we went through water ionizers and that hoax, if you will, because there's a lot of garbage out there. There really is. Biggest problem we found was she ended up having mold issues and then heavy metal toxicity, and we couldn't figure out a source. Ends up it was the water ionizer that we had. The Enagic machine was actually the 9th machine we tried. And I have since been through about 40 that I've tested. And we still have an Enagic machine on the counter. A lot of the stuff you hear about alkaline water ionizers is true. They're really, really dangerous unless you have a good one. At the point that we discovered this, Skylar was on force feeds 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it was a liquid diet. So every morning she would literally blow out, fill the crib, sheets, blankets, run down the crib. She had gas distension, and she was literally inflamed. So when Amy came into our lives, she was like, oh, I can help. She needs to try my water. And I was like, no. 6 weeks later, we got the diagnosis that she was at failure to thrive, and Amy was in the room. Many of you have skeptics and people that are antagonistic. I was the defining end of that. And she literally looked at me and said, you know what? Skylar doesn't have to suffer because you're too stubborn to try the water. I'll give it to you for free. And when I did, it was amazing because in 4 days, literally 80% of her symptoms cleared up. In 10 days, she had her first solid bowel moment, which was actually kind of funny because she thought a snake had crawled out of her belly because she had never had a solid bowel moment. She's like, there's a snake in the potty. Within 6 months, we removed the feeding port. 3 weeks after we removed the feeding port was when we went to Japan and met you. And so that was kind of an emotional upheaval. This was her at 6 months. This is her today. She's great, but why the water? Not sure where you wanted to go next, but if you want, I was just going to jump into what makes this water different, what it stands against other machines, unless you got something else you want me to do. We'll run with it. So basically the answer to your question of why water, well, those that know us, we're on Facebook. We got a ton of friends from Enagic, and everybody knows that we do all different kinds of things. And the bottom line is we've kind of perfected how to rebuild the body from the inside out. We deal with all the crazy conditions, and we do all the blood typing and the diets and the foods and the neurology, but it doesn't really matter what you do if 72% of the equation isn't right. And everybody is 72% water. And so if you don't have the best possible water in your body, that's something else you're having to fix. Not all water is created the same. And this is kind of the order of danger for human consumption. Distilled water is absolutely the worst. The second is reverse osmosis. The reason distilled water and reverse osmosis are so bad is because they pull all the minerals out of the body. They're actually directly linked to the rapid onset osteoporosis and MS. Filtered water is contaminated water that they've tried to clean up. Alkaline water is just water that has more minerals that are alkaline than acidic. Ionized water has got water that's got an electric charge. Every single machine that I've tested so far is alkaline ionized water, which means they add a the chemistry, the minerals, the calcium, magnesium, potassium in, and then they hit it with electric current. There's something else out there that's called electrolyzed reduced water, and that's what Kangen water is. They're not adding anything into the water. You can actually take the filter cartridge out of this with a home filtration unit and hit this, and it will come out alkaline. Because what's happening is it's blowing the water apart, and I'll describe that in a minute. But I just want to clarify that one thing that a lot of people say is, oh, it cured me of this, it cured me of that. No, it didn't. Make sure you don't make claims like that when you're posting, you're talking to people. Yes, this water was the missing piece for Skylar's health. Absolutely, hands down, it was the piece. But it was still just a piece. We were no longer giving her acid water. Well, that's a piece. We removed the acid and now we added something beneficial. Now that's two pieces. The fact that she was on enzymes, probiotics, all that stuff. So you got to realize what the science is. When it's all said and done, this is just simply the best possible way to hydrate the body. In hydrating the body, that's where you get the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. Like I said, be careful about the cure, making medical claims. I'm all about protecting the ship. And I know you are too, Balaj, and I've seen your stuff. You can talk your stories, but me saying there's absolutely the missing piece is not the same thing as saying Kangen cured Skylar. And it's not true. It was the combination of what we did, and that was the piece. And so just make sure the way that you phrase it, because this is helping a lot of people. So really make sure you take care of the company. Long story short, here's how the water works. We have a real pretty aquarium here. The pH is balanced. You got coral, you got bacteria, you've got fish, you got anemones, you got oxygenators, you got filters. And what's going on right here is, if you took this right now and you dumped a 2-liter bottle of Sprite into that water, you'd kill all those fish. That's probably a 200-gallon tank, and you'd kill all the fish. because the pH and the chemicals get messed up, the filtration can't take care of it, and you eliminate all the oxygen. So what you end up with is a crummy fish tank. When you started Kangen water, you had a crummy fish tank. Now I can just change the water in here and you'll get a little bit better, but if I don't stop putting all the garbage in there and clean up the tank, the fish are still gonna get sick. And that's what this does. There's a process called cellular respiration. Basically, the inside of the cell and the outside of the cell, what gets good stuff in and bad stuff out is what we're working with to clean up your body. There's this thing that they discovered in 2005, which was 30 years after Enagic started. What they figured out when they talk about return to origin in electric water is water that's designed to fit into this aquaporin. Here I am pointing at the screen. And that's why it works so much faster, because you can carry the oxygen, hydrogen, and hydroxyl in and pull the lactic acid and cellular waste out. If you look at this thing here, you're going to see this 6 represents the aquaporin. You have this stuff in your cells that's called hemoglobin. That's metabolic iron. Well, when your cells pulse with your heartbeat, they sink. They move like a jellyfish. They're squeezing out toxins and bringing in the good stuff. Squeezing out toxins, bringing in the good stuff. CO2 toxins out, oxygen nutrition in. Well, down here, you'll notice that there's this cluster of water molecules that's 16 to 25 molecules. You're not changing the size of the water molecule, you're changing the size of the cluster. It's technically an electrostatic charge. This right here will not fit in that hole, it has to be broken apart. And that's really all the Kangen water does, is it breaks the water apart so that you can get it into the cell better. People say, well, how can you say it's natural when you're using electricity? I love the ocean. I love an electrical storm, and you can sit there and you can just feel the energy and you can feel the oxygen. There's no rain. The earth is normalizing its system, and it's creating an ocean full of electrolyzed reduced water. It's interesting that the charge lasts 3 or 4 days, which is where the Japanese, who got their technology from the Russians, mimic this. That's why it lasts that way. When you get that feeling, what you're actually feeling is the disassociation of the water molecule. You can look this up. Dissociation means it's just taking H2O and it hits it with a huge electric charge and it makes the bonds burst. So it does. So you get H2O and now you have a free hydrogen and a free hydroxyl. Sometimes you end up with a couple free oxygen. So you end up with these 4 components. These are the actual components of the water that matter. There's hydrogen, oxygen, hydroxyl, and the water's been restructured to get into the cells better. This hydrogen charges your cell membrane. The oxygen gives your mitochondria energy. This right here is why the water helps with Otto Warburg's cancer protocols, because he proved that if you reduce a cell's oxygen by 35% over 48 hours, the mitochondria shuts down and you burn glycolysis. That's the prime cause of cancer. There's a lot of misinformation going on. Otto Warburg stated that no disease can exist in an alkaline environment. If you use that, stop. You are wrong. You are discrediting yourself. Google alkaline conditions. There's hundreds of them. I can take a Sprite, pour 4 tablespoons of baking soda into it, have you drink it, and it's alkaline, and it will make you very, very sick. It's the decreased level of oxygen. Increased levels of oxygen and hydroxyl tend to create an alkaline environment, but it's the oxygen and the hydroxyl that makes it effective. Just clarifying. Biggest difference is it's electrical versus chemical. Most people will go, well, alkaline water will mess up your stomach. Yes, it will. Electrolyzed reduced water won't, because it's not changing the chemical structure. You're not saying, oh, this is alkaline, so add acids. Interestingly enough, all your bottled waters from Dasani, Aquafina, Deer Park, they're all really acidic, so you have to dump calcium bicarbonate into it to neutralize the acid level so that your body can run it through, which is where it's pulling it out of your bones and your matrix. Another thing about electrolyzed reduced water, You set that jug down 3 or 4 days later, it's neutral. It's not going to build up in your tissues. You can take some of these alkaline waters that you buy in the bottle that have calcium. You can bury them in the ground and come back 5 years later and they're still alkaline. And what happens is those minerals will build up in the tissues. This doesn't happen. I currently, as of this week, because I was doing a whole new doctor's packet for physicians, there's no negative research on electrolyzed reduced water. There's absolutely no contraindication for ERW anywhere. Here's the cell membrane. You can see the hydrogens here. They actually charge that cell membrane so the oxygen can go in. Krebs cycle runs and now you have garbage in here. The hydroxyl pulls it out. That's just what it does. And how it does it is they took the concept of the lightning strike and they have medical grade plates with enough energy in the system, the size of a coffee pot, that it takes that cluster of water molecules and breaks it into smaller and smaller clusters. Every time you see this little negative sign here, you're creating an oxygen and a hydrogen and a hydroxyl. So the higher the pH on this, the smaller it's breaking the cluster down. So the pH is misleading. It's not really the pH, it's the amount of reduction that the water goes through to create the hydrogen, oxygen, hydroxyl. If you think of it differently, this cluster of grapes represents a cluster of water molecules. They're just clumped together. When you get them all energized, they roll around and they get all loose. Well, if this is your cell and you have to get all of these grapes in that hole, you're going to pull those off. If you try to cram that in there, it's just not going to work. That's how it goes in easy. Most people ask me, well, how much do I drink? Shorter answer is you want to drink 1/2 of your body weight in ounces per day on a bad day. Say it again. You want to drink half your body weight in ounces per day on a bad day. So you should be drinking between 75% of your body weight in ounces per day is really ideal. More, you'll flush. If you work out really hard and you have more lactic acid, you're going to want to push up 100% of your body weight. So you're like, well, I have 240 pounds. Yeah, and if you don't drink 180 ounces, you're going to be dehydrated and your toxins are going to build up. You're going to retain fluids. You're going to swell. The scariest thing is 1 12-ounce can of Sprite can be used to destroy 18 gallons, not cups, 18 gallons of high energy water. One soda. It's actually more dangerous than cigarettes. So regular health, 50% of your weight and body weight is minimum. Acute health issues, 75%. Chronic health issues, 100% of your body weight in ounces. Disclaimer there are a couple of health conditions where the physicians will actually limit your intake of water. So for instance, somebody with congestive heart failure and they've got water around the heart, they'll limit them to 48 to 64 ounces a day and build up from there. This is still the best 48 to 64 ounces of water they can get because the heart no longer has to produce all of the electric current for the cardiovascular system, so it greatly reduces the stress. And I actually have that measured at Emory here in Atlanta. Keep going, we good? All right, so pH scale. Red will make you rust and blue will make you beautiful. Bottom line, this is healthier, this is oxidation. You need that, do you? Remember that picture I said you got hemoglobin in here? Hemoglobin is metabolic iron. If you leave it outside, your tools outside, they rust. Well, remember that whole oxidative stress? If the hemoglobin is in an acidic environment and it rusts, it can't carry oxygen. So you now have another reason why you've dropped your oxygen levels. If you start looking at all these amazing bottled waters with great pHs, you'll see they all have an oxidative stress. There's real water and there's Enagic water. Those are the only negatives in there. That means they can have extra electrons to donate. and it's a lot cheaper. This is a test that I ran for people, and I used to do it in a demo, and I decided to put the picture in here. I should probably do a video, but we'll do one of these live. It's kind of fun. This is 32 ounces of water, and I put the drops in it. You can see it's a nice solid 9.5. There's a tablespoon of Sprite in here, and it's this bright orange color. Now, I used to like, God, I drank more Mountain Dew in high school than you can imagine. But I really liked Full Throttles, and I'd have 1 or 2 a month because I knew they weren't so good for me. And then I did this, and I had to stop because I would drink a couple extra glasses of water if I had a soda, because, you know, I was trying to balance it out. Couldn't do 18 gallons. So what I did is I took this right, where'd my mouse go? There you go. I took this right here, and I poured this water into it. So you have a tablespoon in there. I filled a 6-ounce cup, and now I have 6 ounces of acid. This right here, I ended up pouring that diluted tablespoon of soda into 32 ounces. 1 tablespoon. And by the time I'm done pouring, that whole thing is destroyed. I know I'm going to make a lot of people upset right now, but how many people throw lemon in your water? Don't do it. Take your Kangen water, fill up 32 ounces, put the drops in it, and squeeze your lemon into it. Tell me what the result is. This water right here no longer has any oxygen or hydrogen available in it. The reason I used a 32-ounce pitcher is, one, really, it's because I had it. But how many people go to the fast food places and say, supersize it, I'll get the 32 ounce? You're drinking 32 ounces or 2 full pounds of acid. Think about that. That was the damage that was done with a tablespoon. I'm going to skip right into explaining, you know, some of the other properties of the machine, if that's cool with you. All right. Most people today are trying to be healthier and trying to get stuff done. We're going to fruits and veggies. We're getting away from carbs. Anybody who thinks that they should be eating 6 to 11 servings of breads, pastas, grains, starches, or cereals.
Hey, Doc, quick question. Someone's asking, is lime any different than lemon?
Oh, I know the answer to that. Go ahead and try it. Don't take my word for it.
What's the actual answer? They'll take your word for it.
I know, that's why I said go check. No, it's bad. It's an acid.
All right, sweet.
The reason that lemon has an alkalizing effect on the body is because it so stresses the system that it causes your pancreas to contract and it excrete the only enzyme in the body that's got a pH of 8.8 to neutralize it.
Wow.
So do we use it? Yes. When? Well, when we're trying to get the pancreas refreshed, doing a cleanse, but people are always just squeezing lemon juice in their water. So it's just something to be careful of.
Are you guys, does everyone have a pen and paper and like making a list of all the shit they got to stop doing?
Hey, we're like, anti-aging.
They're gonna all hate me now. They're gonna be like, fuck.
No, they've already got all the answers.
No, I'm just kidding. They're gonna, it's a love-hate thing, you know? They hate for like a few minutes and then they love later when they get healthier and feel better.
Story of my life. So you start eating all these fruits and veggies and you're like, I'm doing good stuff. Well, we actually, when we bought the water, we were not interested in the business at all. I want this for my daughter. Oh, but there's a W9 and you can, no, my daughter's dying. I don't need to start a business. And we're going to get it so she can drink it. Well, she got to drinking it, got better, but her bowel would really get inflamed when she started eating fruits and veggies. And we're like, so we had the machine for probably a year before we cleaned any of our fruits and veggies.
And yeah, that's actually a big one, because I've ran into people who I know are building the business, they're doing well, they're successful, they got lots of, you know, sales and whatnot. And then I would bring it up somehow, like talking about washing fruits and veggies and this and that, and like those other features on the machine. And they're like, oh, what? Like, I don't do any of that stuff. And I'm like, man, like, we got to get you guys really using this thing. You know, it's like having a Lambo in the garage and only taking selfies with it and like not taking it for a rip.
I have machines in Africa, New Zealand, and the Australian outback where the whole clinic is the machine. When you realize what you can do with this clinically, it's crazy. Yeah, we'll stick with the basics right now.
let me touch on a couple quick questions here.
Yeah.
So someone is saying, I don't know if you know this or whatever, but Tammy said lemon juice is great for our kidneys if you drink it straight. True or false?
Not all the time. The true and false. The problem with what they're trying to do with that is purify the blood. And there's some research that's coming out with the acidity of really intense doses of vitamin C that are highly beneficial. But the reason people get kidney stones is because their body is so acidic that any fluid that comes into the kidney is first passed over a calcium stone to neutralize it so you don't digest the kidney. Is it effective? Yes. Are there better things to do? In my opinion.
Like what?
Well, even the hypochlorous, but your salts come into play here. Your salts come into play. When you start bringing up the acids, you got to be really careful because most people don't realize that eating meat, highly acidic. The best use of the lemon that we have found from a true functional standpoint is it helps aid in some digestion, especially if you have a congested pancreas and liver. And then you do kind of a cleanse, and then you do some liver issues. Some lemon juice, and it causes the pancreas to really contract, regulates and exchanges the enzymes that are produced there, unclogs the ducts and things like that.
All right.
As far as the kidney, not so much because it is too acidic.
If you guys have questions, guys, keep throwing them in the chat. I'm going to let Dr. Michael continue, but we'll spend some time on Q&A at the end. So keep going, boss.
Okay. So anyways, we're teaching our children better habits and they're learning about organic and all that, but here's the problem. The pesticides that are sprayed on the fruits and veggies. This is not some great grand conspiracy where the government is trying to kill us all. The reality is the farmers are going, look, I don't want to have to reapply my pesticides every time it rains. Give me something that doesn't wash off. So pesticides now are all petroleum based, so they're waterproof, which means they don't wash off in the sink. So if you're eating lots of fruits and veggies and you're just still rinsing them off in the sink, hello, you have 11.5, use it. These were tomatoes that were washed in tap water, and then I rinsed them with the 11.5 for 60 seconds, and that's what came off. Don't take my word for it. Go buy some. Another huge issue. When you start talking to people about bottled water, and there's a couple of people that we've run into that are selling high-end bottled waters and stuff, and I'm like, okay. They're like, yeah, it's only $1.25 a liter. I said, cool, I need 6 gallons a day. You're like, what do you need 6 gallons of water a day for? I drink a gallon, my wife drinks a gallon, my son drinks a gallon, my daughter drinks a gallon. My little ones drink a half gallon each, so there's 5 gallons, and then another gallon for cooking. You use it for cooking? Well, yeah. Here's the thing, most municipal water supplies are full of chlorine and contaminants. Chlorine is an iodine inhibitor, which means that your body can't absorb iodine in the thyroid, so now you have thyroid disease because you take a bath and cook with chlorinated water. You have to get rid of it. A lot of times people do the tomato test. A lot of people I found didn't like tomatoes, so I started to do my apples. Take 1 apple, slice it in half, cut it up in slices, cut the other half in slices, put one half in tap water, put one half in 9.5 water, and taste the difference. What you'll find is after the apple's been in the water for 30 seconds, you can pour the water out and put the yellow drops in it. There's no chlorine left in the water because it's all in the apples. People boil their potatoes, their carrots, their veggies. So they literally filter the water with all the veggies and then eat the veggies. So they get the concentrated chlorine. Another thing that people don't realize, 11.5 is a natural degreaser. Pets love it. Biggest plus to the SD501 and the K8 is the disinfectant chart. This point alone is worth $8,000. So that one button. People have seen this, but they don't really know what the chart means. This right here is hypochlorous acid. Strong electrolyzed acid water 2.6 translates into this. How many people here, okay, I'm gonna see if I can give this a whirl, I haven't done this. How many people here have seen the tie-in video where they say, oh, it's old technology and you have to use a bleach solution, blah, 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 to produce 2.5 water. That statement alone clarifies they have no clue what they're talking about. It's not that you can't produce 2.5 water without the solution. You can. Take it out and try it. What you can't produce is hypochlorous acid. That's when you take salt, which is NaCl, H2O, you blow it apart and you get HOCl. That kills everything. And when I say everything, I mean take your worst viruses known to the CDC here in Atlanta and have it in the lab and have them tested. I have. It kills everything. This over here, sodium hypochlorite, is bleach. The only reason there's a little bit of hypochlorite in the solution is because in order to ship it, it has to have that to keep down bacterial overgrowth. So here's the way your percentages actually work. If you send your solution to a lab, which I did, and have it break it apart, which I did, you'll find that there is approximately, if you have contaminated water, you're going to add 16 drops of bleach per gallon of water. There is approximately 4 drops of bleach per gallon of solution. And what that translates into is now you take 8 ounces of that gallon, which is a quarter of a drop, and you make 10 gallons of hypo. You're not getting any of that in the machine. It's just a preservative. What you are getting is that chloride ion that gets ripped off, binds to hydroxyl, and that will kill anything that you can, any surface you can spray it on. How about kids in nurseries, daycare centers, schools, hospitals, nursing homes, wound care? Cut yourself. Kids have the flu. That 2.5 is the most powerful sterilant there is available right now. In fact, let me see. That's the, oh yeah, I kind of got ahead of myself. It's an $8,000 difference. The average cost of a hypochlorous acid machine that produces the same output as the SD501, not even the super, just the standard SD501 is $8,000. But it doesn't give you 11.5 to wash your fruits and veggies. The FDA approved hypochlorous acid for sterilization. If you take regular tap water and create 2.5 water with no solution, it does not produce hypochlorous acid. Let's say that again. Every other machine on the market that brags about not having the solution can't produce this. This is where you get your all your medical approvals in Japan. It's based on the 2.5 for sterilization, not 9.5 for drinking. You can treat wounds with this stuff. You know, all those other machines, they don't produce this. It is the only one. You are the category king. Next conversation. Here's how you make it. H2O blows apart to hydrogen hydroxyl. Salt blows apart to sodium chloride. You take these two together and you have hypochlorous acid. The best part is it's 100% biodegradable. It's bioavailable. If you accidentally drink it, it won't kill you, but it'll get rid of all the bacteria and you have to eat enzymes and probiotics. They discovered it in the neutrophils. If you ever cut your finger and your mom said, let it bleed, you'll sterilize it, that's why. These are studies that I've had that have been done. Strep, E. coli, MRSA, Kripke, kills them all. I've now got several independent lab reports showing the sterilization. I think I uploaded this up to whatever site you asked me to, Balaj. So you have it in the files somewhere. Now, these are my case studies. Don't go, oh, Dr. Michael said. I worked and co-managed all of these cases with other people's regular healthcare providers. This is educational, it's an understanding. If you have a serious wound, go get it looked at. Don't go, I have water, Dr. Michael said. So this was MRSA, individuals getting ready to have their thumb amputated. 2.5, 11.5 protocols saved the thumb. This was a wound on the head. You'll notice how it is not bleeding profusely because it was sprayed with 2.5. It was surgically treated, and then the 11.5 and 2.5 was used for the treatment. You can see the minimal scarring. This was actually my son. This was the one that got me involved with the CDC, got me involved with wound care specialists and infectious disease. This was a gentleman that had gallbladder surgery. When he had his gallbladder removed, he ended up with MRSA and got an internal infection. And so he was on a wound vac for 7 months. And 18 days after, he actually took I actually gave him a solution bottle filled with hypochlorous, and I said, just stick the nozzle in there and spray it and let it sit for 5 minutes. When they change the wound and when they put the wound back in, they'll just suck it all out and just see what it does. 18 days later, I got a call from his ID, his infectious disease doc. He's like, how'd you get rid of it? We went to dinner, started the protocols, and that's how we ended up with different hospitals and wound care stuff. Another person that already had the water machine wasn't using the 2.5. Hey, do you think the water would work? He's actually sitting in a hospital room getting this toe amputated, diabetic ulcer. And he's like, well, do you think it would help if I soaked my toe? I'm like, dude, you're already get the toe cut off. What's it gonna hurt? I got another call from the hospital because 48 hours the day of the surgery, it looked like that. A week it looked like that, and he kept the toe. Gangrenous fingers. And so that's the broad spectrum of everything you can do with that nifty little device sitting on your counter. A little bit about the company. Most people don't know what an OEM company is. It means it's an original equipment and manufacturer. To the best of my knowledge, we are the only OEM, which means we own 100% of all of the process and manufacturing. We don't part it out to the lowest bidder. It's established the market. We are the category king since day one. Everybody that's come on board is competing against us. We have all the Water Quality Association certifications. Sounds really good. Does anybody here actually know what that means? It is the Water Olympics for the international market. They test everything that has to do with water, and we get the gold medal. Everybody else is the runner-up. You know what they say about second place? You're just first in a long line of losers.